Good morning, everybody. It is 10 a.m. or 5 minutes past 10 GMT, and I welcome you all to Sysonex, and we'll get started with our presentation. Today's presentation is on delivering AI-driven risk management for the enterprise. So whenever we're looking at workflows and events, we have this massive view where we have the idea of who does what do they what are they involved and engaged in, and how they're really doing that. That is really the baselining of what you may call a framework. The frameworks sometimes are from top, driving all the way to the bottom, or from the bottom, information is gradually collected to the top. So there is a delay on this information being vetted, created, and generated, and being made available. But whenever we have AI enabled, we realize that it is possible to have that data made available real time with fine tuning and ensuring oversight possible. So another aspect in today's business landscape, we're seeing that, more oversight requests are present, where we're seeing boards like Tesla looking at supply chain risk, AI governance, climate risk. We're looking at more accountability, Wells Fargo comes into mind, where there's board accountability issues. We're looking at failure of oversight, risk culture ignored, and delayed response. We've also seen increased involvement from a board level, where there was a board shakeup from the very AI company that is doing a lot of the AI work throughout the globe. That's OpenAI. We also observe that there's a request for insights from different cybersecurity rules. That is an example we've observed with regards to Capital One. We've also seen that there's a need for accountability, for data-driven decision making, and we've seen that this is something that we observed with Pfizer. So that being said, throughout the globe, the framework and the audience that are looking at AI and AI needs, they're driven by the idea that we need to deliver on risk approval, risk prioritization, risk resolution, risk closure, and definitely tied with risk governance. And while all of these workflow are occurring, they're looking at increasingly RCSA, risk dashboard, risk control, risk appetite, risk threshold, etc. tool sets to deliver value for them. But in all cases, the observation is that AI can be brought into play. AI can actually deliver real-time value. AI can not only drive real-time, but it also can support decision making. The core problem that we're really observing in today's world, our systems are effectively, deterministic, which are simplified systems, but most systems are probabilistic. So they have inherent risk already embedded into them, and it's the risk of the unknown. In today's, they mentioned today's systems, there are a lot of human limitation and backward looking. So you only know what you know, you only observe what you only observe. And that as a whole is slowly changing in today's world. The reality that we are observing is that risks move faster than humans are able to not only learn, observe, aggregate that data. And that is the world that we live in, where the probabilistic systems have larger uncertainty, even more uncertainty in today's, I would say, rather chaotic financial markets, chaotic political environment, extreme, weather changes that are really putting a pressure on the norms. So within a world as such, we see that human beings, while we have limited ability towards providing only some contextual information, we lack the ability towards processing millions of signals on a real-time basis. So literally, we are asking humans to do things that machines are effectively better at. It's just that computational power we've never had and likely we never will. I'm going to go to the next slide. And in the next slide, I want to share a bit of a brutal truth about enterprise and failed AI projects. The observation is that most enterprises today have many, many different tools, and they all may perform similar things. As an example, what I see over here are individuals, same individual just being provided with change, bit of an update, and we are being told that this is a different flavor. So too many tools, no unified system, data is fragmented, and on top of that, we're being told to deliver on par excellence. That is a hard deal to achieve for any organization, especially when you have lots and lots of dollars and budgets and your reputation that's in stake. So the success stories of AI, as there are many, so are the AI failures. We're looking at overcomplicated projects. We're looking at limited to no clear objective. We're looking at limited integration into decisions and doing the same thing by multiple teams. Multiple teams are looking at AI, yet they're not connected information. So, why is this even happening? It's because of the very idea that, again, we never built our organizations based on the idea that we can deliver excellence, we can deliver, limited tool sets, we can deliver using common business processes, we can deliver using common data consumptions model. We just never had that. We went from one level to another level to another level, same activity, same engagement, just a different type of flavor. So that just won't work with AI. And I really need that to sink in uh, for all of us. So what we're looking at is the events and their disposition, the shift with AI and what AI must do. What we really need to understand is that the understanding that AI is not a feature, rather it can literally be the system itself. Okay. So from an evolutionary standpoint, we were in a situation where we were imposed, or there were scenarios and events that were predisposed. There was impositives where we only had hopes, prayers, and charity. We evolved and we are in a situation where we became reactive and we are delivering human intervention, analysis. We're also delivering decision-making processes. So we suddenly become reactive. From a scenario of impositives to reactives, now we became to the point of being predictive, where in order to deliver on AI, we need to detect anomalies instantly. We need to predict risk before it materializes, and we need to simulate outcomes and recommend actions. Any four of these missing, it's almost like you become more in the world of reactive or slanted towards the previous state, and that is exactly what is happening. We don't recommend actions, we just look at the outcomes. Sometimes we are not able to look at the anomalies instantly, rather we actually just observe them as events that are occurring, and we're just understanding how those events work. but definitely AI was meant to deliver on these 4 items. So if you go forward a little bit, I want to take you to this view. So how would we really go about designing a system that can deliver on AI? So from a banking level or an insurance company, you'd be looking at business capability, the model, and attributes. So the attributes that we find in risk management for different organizations that are practicing in the area of risk management globally. And we find that they're delivering on risk governance and oversight, risk identification, risk assessment and analysis, risk treatment and control, risk monitoring and reporting, uh, generating value through third-party ecosystem, technology, data and cyber risk, operational resilience, compliance, regulatory, risk data analytics. So these are the attributes that any and every risk management system is delivering right now. Or any and every risk management system is trying to deliver. Not all applications, not all practices are able to deliver on all of these items. As you realize, there's definitely struggles within our own colleagues where sometimes they're only able to deliver certain aspects of certain values for their own organizations. So I want you to take a gander at this, and then we'll go to the next level, which is literally the capability level. So when we go to the capability level, we're looking at, again, these same attributes that were these same attributes that are then further enhanced, further expanded upon, and we realize that if we do a deeper digging into this, we see that risk governance and oversight requires governance, appetite tolerance, board and executive oversight, three lines of model enablement. Risk identification requires enterprise risk identification, emerging risk management, third-party risk identification, etc. So this is something what provides you with the view of risk for a organization, and albeit any organization. Now, if this is the case for risk management that we observe, then our next question comes in. How would you actually accept any one of these areas for your tool set or your applications that you want to deliver, which is going to be AI driven? So let's actually expand on this, and let's go, instead of your capabilities, instead from attributes to capabilities, let's go to actual feature level. Okay, so here were the attributes, here were the feature capabilities, and now we're actually looking at individual features. So what we provided in the previous slide provides an entire series of capabilities and attributes. But what we're looking at this current slide is we're really trying to create an application or a tool set that will drive risk management for your organization, for my organization, and drive value for that. And that's where individual features come into play when we are trying to deliver on a new application. So in this particular application, we're looking at risk identification, risk assessment and analysis, risk treatment and control, and finally, risk monitoring and reporting. Interestingly, identification, assessment, analysis, treatment, control, reverting back to our previous slides, we notice that all of these can be automated. The area of risk reporting definitely can be automated. AI can be brought in, but the reports consumption is definitely happening with the aid of the individual who are reading and reporting and understanding those reports. But for sure, the identification, the assessment and analysis, the treatment and control and management, that is happening with the aid of AI. So when we're building a tool set, we can't build a tool set based on the understanding that we will have no AI component and we'll just add that as an add-on. Rather, we need to build tools that really bring in AI components straight into the system itself. So what we went through the journey is from a business capability model. I want to show a little bit of an application architecture on how a particular application can be built that it can be that can leverage AI at the end of the day. So for those of us who are, risk management experts, as well as colleagues who are in the technology and tech development, as well as, architects, we realize that there's a need for the SaaS solution to be hosting a application layer, and this is that application layer, and that application layer needs common components as well as shared features. So the shared features are your admin and access functionalities, the risk workflow engine, the risk rules, artificial intelligence, which is actually the topic for today, as well as dashboard and reporting. But only when we have all of these established and placed do we have the ability to provide a module or a product for our organization. So in this journey, if we go back and say that, yes, we do want to have AI in our organization, we do want to enable AI for our organization, and that's a business decision. And that business decision, we're trying to drive by saying that let's bring in technology. And a lot of times we're bringing in technology without really realizing that while AI fits in this particular block, all of this activity also needs to be performed. And only then we're really getting an AI application. A lot of times we are leveraging external entities AI tool sets, not really understanding what the governance should be around that particular AI tool set. So let me go to the next slide where we can deliver a specific module that can be custom made for you and how it actually ties back to the business capability model. So this is that view. So this view was tied with the applications platform, with the infrastructure hosted on the cloud. This is extracting that environment where we're showing that your front-end components have all of these business attributes and capabilities and functionalities that drive the risk module that is required for your specific organization. That particular risk module now needs admin and access functionality, risk workflow engine, risk rules, AI, dashboard reporting, as well as application-based functionality. And these elements not only cover the area of business logic, but also cover the area of standardized applications model. But the part that is important for us to realize is that this AI model that we want to leverage for our artificial intelligence risk assistant or our risk tools for our organization, it needs training. It needs training data set. And the question that we face again and again is how good is our data? How well have we established our data? Only when we have a good training set can we have the expected data that we're trying to deliver and really generate core values for our organization. The infrastructure, such as delivered by, say, OpenAI, or Google's Gemini products and other products at the same time, they deliver on their model. But the data that you have, the data that is proprietary to you, that is very, very rich and expensive data. Instead of sharing that with these large organizations, it is important that we realize and understand that we have the opportunity, we literally have the opportunity to start training our own neural model and use that neural model to deliver on AI support for our own organizations. And this really comes into play. How do we use our organization's data to deliver tools, your very own risk module, and what are the different parts and pieces that are involved in that? So now I want to give you guys a quick demo of our product itself that goes into these steps where we, first of all, as I mentioned, have identified the attributes, we identify the capabilities, we identify the features, we build the infrastructure, and then we created specific modules to deliver on AI for the organization, where we have our own trained risk model that is utilizing our own organizational risk assistant. So let's say you have your own specific module, and that specific module that we've created, that module should have a login location, and we have a user in this case that will log in to their area of subdomain area. Once they've actually logged in, they get a similar profile view, just like you get in, say, Microsoft Office or Azure or AWS or Google Management Admin locations. From here, you can literally go to the Enterprise Risk Management module. And first of all, I want to say that we can go and jump in right away to the AI Risk Assistant. What you see all over here is literally like your home page that gives you the view for all of the home related information that you have. Your risk entry, where you can enter the risk information, which acts as your risk catalog. Your risk approvals queue, where instead of risk being approved by a individual or by your own colleague in an Excel sheet, it's actually shared by the entire organization, and the right person is able to approve the risk. You have a risk register that contains all approved risk and unique IDs. You have a risk prioritization ability that enables all of the risk prioritized components that you see and face within your time frame or within the particular organization that you're at. And you can click on critical and have the individual data. You can also look at your risk report, risk closure. But these are workflows where we have enabled these things simply so that we can have a person involved, a man in the middle who's actually looking at this data, looking at this information as a governance oversight towards risk itself. But what we've done is the idea that you can now identify new risk for your own organization based on your own company information that you've provided while you're actually being onboarded. You can also do discover your risk resolution based on the specific category. And in this case, I've only been given environment and technical category. And you can go through those categories and identify and discover risk. You can add risk control entities automatically and have those risk control entities added. You can do a risk control and self-assessment based on the date that you've actually started this endeavor or initiative, and you can simulate that and try to see what is happening within your areas of risk, or understand what is above risk appetite and what is that specific item that you really need to be focused on looking at. So you can look into all of those items also. Same time, you can look at root cause analysis for the risk that you have for your organization. You can also identify new strategy, and you can, instead of going to, swivel chair, or like, going to multiple screens, same screen, you can actually look at working on delivering value using a common risk-based intelligence system. So what we can do is we can actually look at a particular industry sector. Let's select a division. We can select a particular framework. We can say cutting trees. I hope I spelled deforestation right. Deforestation. Okay, animal, or instead of animal, it should be wildlife. So let's do a search on this item to identify new risk that actually, there you go. So what we have are these 4 items that are providing not only the industry sector, category, title, description, impact score, likelihood, risk score. You can accept any of these items. And after accepting these items, you can actually say, let's create a new risk. You can create a new risk based on adding, say, let's just add some of those, 3I views. And, let's put it very likely, impact severity. Let's put it or instead of minor, let's put it moderate. And you can add a dollar value tied to that. So 11,500, or maybe 1,000, and maybe just provide that this particular item is 500. So now you can actually save this as a risk item. And once you've actually saved that as a risk item, which is really the AI generating your ongoing risk portfolio based on the area or section of industry that you've selected. Now you can keep on accepting these risks, but as you accept those risks, guess what? They also get into the risk approvals queue. They also get added into the risk entry queue. So as you notice, there's a reputational and regulatory backlash from perceived deforestation. And you can now say, get that approved with your director, with your vice president, and the powers be. So now that that's actually gone through an approval queue, and this is that approval queue, you can approve it, request for changes, and reject it. And again, AI is actually saying that this is a approval process that you're actually going through. We've set up this workflow for you, and you're going to have this enabled. I just want to ensure that we get this success. Yes, the success message was very important for me. So now that you've actually gotten these risk items, you can go and identify the risk resolution tied to them. What I mean by that is that we don't have any risk resolution here, but we do need to have that. And it takes time to deliver on risk resolution, especially on topics that we're not fluent in. So from my side, I'm good with technology. From some of our colleagues who might be good in the financial industry, but risk managers, risk stewards, we're looking at different different areas that we might not have expertise in. So what do? We actually select this topic and we say, let's search for a risk resolution. Now, so it found the information, and here's the phase 1 approach. We accept this, and this is the risk resolution that is telling that, do you want to accept this resolution? Or you may want to accept business development time to rescope offers, minimal marketing spent to reposition legal sign-off and moratorium, on deforestation. Legal and M&A support and partnership can be looked at. I think this looks more relevant, and I'll definitely accept it. And as soon as I accept it, it actually gets updated in the save risk item. Not only does it get updated, you can actually start uploading documents against it. And you can now start uploading, like, this is that particular item where you can actually start looking at how do you really resolve or enable, reduce the risk by adding new risk controls, which we're also going to use AI to deliver on. So now that we can actually work on this, we can start the timer and actually start executing on this. So while we're actually executing on this and we're using AI, and we said that we're going to have step-by-step AI enabled. So we go to the same risk control area, and now we realize that we have that common view of inherent and residual because there's no risk control tied to this. So what we do, we actually then search for a risk control. From this risk control area, we can also look at the root cause analysis. So I'm actually going to take you to the root cause analysis also at the same time. And what we can do is repetition regulatory backlash from this. And let's actually do another search on the root cause analysis while we're looking at this particular risk control area. And I believe if we do a search on that, the search on this will actually stop because there are two different API calls. So we go for the search for risk control and a success. Believe root cause search. Okay, we have both successes. So I'm just going to go to root cause analysis, and it did not populate it. But we do have root cause analysis that was identified for this particular item, which ultimately reduces the risk tied to these areas. And from there, we also have the root cause analysis that is also going to populate over here. But as you notice, you can identify the risk, you can discover the risk resolution, you can do the risk control, you can have the RCSA that actually provides you a simulation of the time frame that you're looking at. And based on the simulated time frame, you can then identify or add different kinds of risk appetite. You can actually say, this is the current risk appetite, simulate this for, say, if it's 13, and your risk tolerance becomes anywhere between, like, say, 10. And that simulation then again resets the entire area. And then you realize it's actually within this area that you have within risk is range, and all the other are actually under. So you can also have another view where you might add this as, say, 8. That results in more areas that are under within this, this risk tolerance area. So as I mentioned, the AI tool can enable identifying the risk areas, which we identified. It can enable the discover the risk resolution, which we have discovered. It can provide you risk control, and I think there's a timeout that is occurring over here. From there, we can actually automate the entire risk control self-assessment throughout the organization. And then there's the root cause analysis that we can do for a specific organization. Finally, there's the strategy risk relation and the Ask AIRA, where instead of going to another tool set, you can actually utilize this tool set that we've trained, and you can keep on generating the risk type to it. So this, in a nutshell, is the risk area that I wanted to share with you guys.